Azeroth Defence Force, heroes or villains? In the long and bloody history of Azeroth, heroes and villains were rarely as simple as stories told in taverns suggested. Sometimes the line between them was not a line at all, only a shifting shadow. And in that shadow stood the Azeroth Defence Force. The organization had not always been controversial. It began decades earlier as the Alliance Defence Force, created to protect the citizens of the Alliance during a time of increasing border conflict with the Horde. Their doctrine was simple. The best defense is attack. Where the Alliance hesitated, the ADF struck first. Where diplomats spoke, the ADF sharpened blades. At first, their victories were praised. Horde warbands were ambushed before they could raid villages. Supply lines were sabotaged. Enemy commanders vanished in the night. But success brought escalation. An orc caravan suspected of carrying weapons was annihilated, later revealed to contain refugees. A Horde outpost burned to the ground with prisoners still inside. A night raid in Ashenvale nearly ignited a full-scale war. The Alliance leadership began to realize something uncomfortable. The ADF was too effective, too aggressive, too uncontrollable. And so, quietly and officially, the Alliance severed all ties with them. The leader of the ADF did not take the decision quietly. Vayne was a night elf druid known for discipline, precision, and an unwavering belief that weakness invited catastrophe. When the Alliance abandoned the ADF, many expected the organization to collapse. Instead, Vayne gathered his commanders beneath the ancient trees of Ashenvale and announced something that would change their fate forever. "If the Alliance will not defend Azeroth," he said, "then we will." That night, the Alliance Defence Force died, and the Azeroth Defence Force was born. No longer bound to Alliance command, the ADF declared itself an independent military power, dedicated to protecting all of Azeroth. But their definition of protection was uncompromising. The Horde, in Vayne's eyes, remained the greatest threat to the world, and threats had to be eliminated. The Azeroth Defence Force operated where governments could not or would not. They sabotaged Horde war fleets before they launched. They hunted warlocks and mages across continents. They assassinated leaders believed to be planning future conflicts. To some people, the ADF were saviors. Villages saved from raids praised their name. Merchants whose caravans were protected called them heroes. But others whispered darker things. They spoke of executions without trials, of prisoners who were never seen again, of night elf soldiers whose eyes gleamed with unsettling zeal. Only a few people knew the truth. Within the Azeroth Defence Force was a secret brotherhood, a cult. They called themselves Destroyers. They worshipped something known only as the X. No one outside the cult knew what the X truly was. Some believed it to be an ancient cosmic being. Others believed it was a forgotten power buried beneath Azeroth itself. But the Destroyers believed one thing with absolute certainty. Power came through sacrifice. After battles, certain fallen enemies did not go to graves. They vanished, taken by hooded members of the cult, offered to the X. Each sacrifice, they believed, brought them closer to transcendence, stronger, sharper, more capable of enforcing their brutal vision of justice. The terrifying truth was that the cult had quietly grown within the ranks of the ADF. and no one knew whether Vayne himself opposed it or allowed it. Vayne knew about the cult. Of course he did. Nothing in the Azeroth Defence Force happened without his awareness. One night, beneath a moonlit sky, one of his captains finally confronted him. "Commander," she said, "these sacrifices, these rituals, they are not justice." Vayne stood silently for a long time before answering. "Justice?" he said softly. He turned toward the horizon where Horde territories lay beyond the forests. "Justice is what keeps our people alive." The captain pressed further. "Is that what this is? Survival?" Vayne's eyes hardened, but even he did not know the full cost of what the cult was awakening. Across Azeroth, rumors spread. The Azeroth Defence Force appeared wherever conflict threatened to erupt. Sometimes they prevented war. Sometimes they caused it. Sometimes they disappeared into the night, leaving only silence and bodies behind. The people of Azeroth argued endlessly. Were they heroes or villains? The truth was far more uncomfortable. The Azeroth Defence Force might be both, because in a world like Azeroth, protecting peace often meant committing acts no hero would ever admit to. And somewhere in the darkness, the cult of the X was growing stronger, waiting for the moment when the price of defending Azeroth would finally come due. And when that moment arrived, even Vayne might discover that some forces cannot be controlled, only unleashed.